Hey everybody, thanks for tuning in to another Self-Publishing Insiders with Draft to Digital. This is going to be a fun one. This is really one of my favorite topics. I probably obsess over it a little too much, and it's because my wife Kara and I are doing the whole hashtag van life thing. But we are going to be talking about writing from the road, and there are probably few people on the planet who've written on more roads than the three people you see on your screen right now. I'm talking with, well, actually, let me let you guys introduce yourselves. We'll start with you, Mark. Go ahead. First of all, I'm Kevin Thomason, the Director of Marketing and PR for Draft to Digital, and my good friend Mark Leslie Lefebvre.
I am the Director of Business Development for Draft to Digital, and I do less writing on the road as much as I do writing while on the road.
Yes, I actually write directly on the road, and my good friend Nick Thacker, who's okay. So we should mention I am currently in Little Rock, Arkansas. Mark is in Toronto.
Waterloo, Ontario.
Waterloo. Okay, Ontario. Americans don't understand Canada. And what is it? A state? Is it a province? We have no idea.
I could see Toronto if I climbed up high enough. I could see the CN Tower from where I am.
And I've been there. And Nick, you are in Hawaii right now, right?
Oahu, island of Oahu. Yep.
Yes. And you've written a lot on the road yourself, so you move almost as much as I do.
Sometimes by choice too.
Sometimes on purpose. Okay, so we're gonna dive right into that now. Be sure you are asking whatever questions you might have. You can ask us anything during this, of course. It doesn't have to specifically be about writing on the road, although we'd appreciate that because that is the topic. And for those folks who are tuning in via the podcast after this live broadcast, that's the stuff they're probably tuning in for. So if you don't mind. And we are also, before we get started, we wanted to, because we announced this week, we've announced this both to our email list and to our blog, people who pay attention on the blog. But we just added BorrowBox, which is a brand new way for you to reach even more libraries. Mark, you had the whole list of, I've got it in front of me. Correct me if I get it wrong. This is going to help you reach library patrons in Australia, Ireland, New Zealand, and the United Kingdom. So that is pretty remarkable. We love libraries at Draft to Digital. They're a great way to, allow readers to discover your work without, them having to pop for anything out of pocket because their tax dollars did it for them. So that's pretty cool, man. You guys, Mark, you are really up on BorrowBox. You want to say a few words about it?
Yeah, a few things. I've been lucky enough to be in the beta program, testing it out. So a couple things authors should know. When you next log into your Draft Digital account, it'll ask you, do you want to opt in all your titles to BorrowBox, which can save you time if you have a lot. If you dismiss it to say maybe later, that notification will pop up 24 hours later. If you actually get rid of it, like don't bug me, and you want us to opt in your titles, just email support@draftdigital.com, and our awesome customer service folks will take care of it for you. So you don't have to go through and manually add them one by one. We will take care of you because we love you and we want to support you, the authors, and we want to help you guys get into as many library systems around the world as possible. BorrowBox is huge in these markets, and one thing you should know as an author, there's no public-facing catalog you can see. If you have the BorrowBox app, if you're in one of those territories that Kevin mentioned, you'll only see books available through the app if the local library you're connected to through BorrowBox actually has your books. But now that you've opted in, because you're a really brilliant author, you've opted into BorrowBox, and if your local library uses BorrowBox, you can let patrons know, hey, my books are now available through BorrowBox. You can request them at X named library.
Exactly. Excellent. So yeah, that's cool. I love anything that gets me into more libraries and makes that easier. This was definitely one. Everyone we talked to in Australia has been begging us for this for years, really. So this is, I think, it's going to be a big deal down under. And I specifically did not do the Australian accent because I don't think I do it very well. So,
and I have to say, kudos to our amazing CEO who continued to work with the awesome company of BorrowBox to make sure we could get the best terms for our authors. So one of the reasons why we may not release a platform right away is, we're not ready technically, but also we want to make sure we get the best possible terms for our authors. So again, a lot of really cool behind the scenes stuff you guys never really get to see.
That's true. We work pretty hard for you. We deserve like brownies and other gifts. So let's go ahead and dive into the topic here, because this, again, like I said, this is one I talk about a lot. It's one that's kind of a favorite of mine. Even before we were traveling full time, I was always sort of obsessed with remote writing, especially when going to conferences. Like I have a whole little conference kit that I can carry with me. That's a streamlined way for me to write, which is basically like a portable folding keyboard. And I got away from the folding keyboard for a while and just used the a little Logitech battery powered keyboard, Bluetooth keyboard with my phone. And then Michael Laurent showed me up and wrote an entire series of books using nothing but his thumbs on his phone screen. So I had to do that a couple of times to prove my worth. But so I'm always tinkering and experimenting with the best way to write while mobile. Do you guys have like tips and tricks or technology that you like to fall back on when you're having to write while you travel? Like, how do you guys write?
I mean, I've got a lot of different, I call them setups, because it's almost like if I don't have the full setup, I don't work. So yep. I can't just have half my setup, have the iPad, but then a mechanical keyboard. Like it's got to be the right thing. And so I've got a couple different setups that I use regularly that I prefer. And one example is, right now I'm sitting at a desk. It's a full, screen and separate keyboard, and that's kind of my preference. And I feel like I can't write unless I'm right here. And then all of a sudden I find myself not right here at a conference or whatever. And so I adopt this second preference, which is an iPad. I actually use an iPad Pro. I've got the smart keyboard. It really lays flat. It took me a little while to get used to that, of course, because it's got the flat keys and all that. And that's it. I mean, I pretty much have made myself get used to writing that way. I can't go even further down that line and use my thumbs like some of you nerds. I just can't do it. I've tried it before. I just can't do it. But that's probably as small as my office gets, is just an iPad with a keyboard.
But you actually occasionally do like you narrate, right? Or you narrate.
So that was going to say, yeah. There's sort of an addendum to that clause, which is
my brain.
if I'm driving somewhere, because again, I don't want to do this on an air. I mean, I thought about dictating on an airplane, but it would be super awkward, I think. But it's really funny, that right next to somebody, and she'd be like, "Their moist loins." Can we say loins in the show?
The transcript for this is going to be amazing now.
But if I'm in the car, if I'm driving somewhere, then I try to dictate. I have a headset that I bought. It's a noise canceling microphone, which is kind of interesting. It kind of blocks out some of the wind noise and road noise and things like that. And I'm able to get some pretty good words written that way. The problem is, of course, with dictating like that when you're not in a studio environment, is the microphone's just not going to be perfect enough. And there's going to be a lot of rewriting and editing and fixing things like that. So I'm not quite here yet, but my plan for that part of it is to adopt some AI tools, some artificial intelligence or machine learning tools to be able to help process that raw dictation, but basically a super grammar checker, right?
Yeah.
However, there's no specific service that does that at this point. So it's mostly just kind of hacking together some different things and seeing if it'll work. But anyway, that's neither here nor there.
Mark, your good friend Kevin J. Anderson, he does a lot of dictation while he hikes up in the mountains.
He's my friend too, Kevin.
No,
he's my friend first.
I share him equally.
He cannot be all of our friends.
Let's just put it this way. Before I was in Hawaii, he was far closer to me. He lived in my town.
That's true.
That's right. But I've had more beers with him.
I needed a better segue
probably true.
than
That's probably true.
No, Kevin has hiked every peak above 10,000 feet in the state of Colorado, and he dictates while. And he started on the little cassette things that he used to mail to somebody who would transcribe for him. So he's evolved that process over time. But yeah, that's part of his first draft process, which is quite incredible. I'm stuck with a laptop, Now, I say have laptop will write while I travel. Now, I haven't traveled since the pandemic, except a couple like camping trips and stuff like that. But one of the challenges I've had to overcome with travel is I'm a tall guy on an airplane, and then when the bozo in front of me decides they're going to recline, and I've got my laptop, like I already don't have enough space. And then my laptop is kind of like this kind of angle. It's just really tight
Mark, are you
angle.
saying
I
that
can't
you
even
actually
get
still
my
fly?
hands in there. What's that?
You don't fly first class like the rest of us?
No, I don't fly first class like the rest of you really cool people.
Nick.
But that is where obviously there's going to be times when I need to get writing done. So my laptop actually opens so I can actually prop it up. Now it's harder if I'm reviewing and editing. That's fine. But then that's where I also always bring one of these. This is a thing.
What is that?
I don't know if you guys are familiar with this technology. It's called a notebook, and you take a pen and paper.
How many amps does that use?
Oh, it just uses a ton of energy. So you're really, it's going to suck the Wi-Fi out of every. But it is, it's a great backup for me. Now the problem I have is I look like a doctor writing a prescription out half the time. I can't read it there. See, but I still, to this day, this is still a great backup for me when I run into situations where the technology fails because of some situation where I can't use it, battery dead or whatever.
Mark, do you know why I can't do that? You know, I take notes. I have my notebooks at arm's length, just like you. But I actually hold my pen like this between two fingers.
Oh wow!
Because when I was in high school, I went on a
3-year-old learning to write. For the
pretty much.
People who aren't
and my handwriting is about as good as a 3-year-old learning to write. When I went on a ski trip in high school and I broke both of my thumbs, I looked like Fonz. I was walking around school, I had casts in both hands. And so I had to learn to write essays because it was super important that I write all these essays, apparently, for college applications and stuff. So I had to write like this. Anyway, so my wrist gets tired very quickly because of tendons and things like that in there. So I have a really good excuse for why I am too lazy to use a notepad to write long form.
Wow, that is neat.
Okay.
Didn't know that.
I love
more you know.
I have dozens and dozens of like Moleskine notebooks that I always carry one with me everywhere we travel. Everywhere I go, I have one close at hand. I love writing and stuff. Now I've been tinkering with iPad. We have the Apple Pencil, and there are other versions of this, by the way. I lean very heavily towards Apple products, but a lot of people are actually using the Apple Pencil and the Notes app and other apps to actually write directly on the iPad screen. And I have a cover on my screen called Paper-like because it's like paper. It gives it texture like paper. So it kind of completes that sort of pen to paper experience. So I have been kind of experimenting with that. I haven't written anything necessarily that way, but I like a challenge. So maybe I'll get around to that at some point. The thing I think we kind of leaned in on the tech side of this, and I like, Mark, that you brought in the analog version of doing this because people still do write by hand. But I always tend to lean in on I love my iPad, I love my iPhone, I love being able to write from anywhere. There are technologies now that are making it so. Like writing on the iPad, there's an e-ink tablet out there. I can't remember what it's called at this point, but there's several versions of this. Remarkable was the one I was thinking. Yeah, and there are others as well where you can just sort of use handwriting and write your notes, and it'll even translate that into typed text. So that's a perfectly viable way to do that.
I'd love to try one out. If anyone from Remarkable is listening, you go ahead and just send us 3 and we can test them for you. And next time we go live.
I'd be happy to try.
Other than that, I don't have like $8,000 to drop on one of these tablets. So,
well, that being said, anyone from Kobo who wants to send me, I was looking at the really awesome new device that does seem to have that functionality. So you can not only have all your favorite books with you, but then you can also.
I noticed that too.
Right. Yeah.
Yes.
I was going to ask you about that, Mark, if you knew anything about it.
I want to know.
If you
but
can't
I'm waiting
use your
to see some
platform to get
reviews
free
to see
stuff,
if
what's
that's
it really
possible.
for? Let's get into a couple of the questions we got popped up. These are not necessarily related directly to writing on the road, but we'll loop back around to that. First up from Val Melville on YouTube. Amazing draft digital staff. Thank you, Val. I have two questions. One, my Kobo downloads for my free ebooks don't show. And two, are there any newsletters to promote free ebooks that aren't on Amazon? Mark, you actually were looking into the whole Kobo thing. Do you have anything you can share that might help real
so
quick?
I know the process isn't 100% automated with like it is with Apple, for example, where that information is sent, multiple times a day. So there is a bit of a backlog, but I think one of our great, awesome folks, maybe Alyssa, commented saying email support@draftdigital.com. We can look into it for you.
Yes.
That is a challenge, but from my own experience, it's usually quite a bit of a backlog, and it comes in batches. So I know that's difficult if you've run a newsletter, a free Booksy or a BookBub or something like that, and you're curious to see what your Kobo stats are. It's going to be frustrating because you may not see them right away. But that's the one answer I have for you.
Okay. So the question about the newsletters that promote free ebooks, Mark and you and I were talking about this a little before the broadcast. I guess our consensus was that you could probably use like Free Booksy and Bargain Booksy and services like that to help reach an audience. I read this a little different from that. But I think your answer is probably on point. Like I think they are looking for promotional services like that. Most won't exclude Amazon, though, we determined.
Yeah, and I suspect Val's asking this question because you cannot make your book free on Amazon unless, except for the 5 days when you're locked into 90 days of exclusivity. So the frustration is often, well, I can't guarantee it's going to be free on Amazon, so I just want to book the sites that I can control. Well, unfortunately, 90% of our industry is based on Amazon this, Amazon that, Amazon everything. Therefore, most of the newsletters won't let you exclude Amazon, but many of the great ones include multiple platforms. And sometimes even if it's not changed on Amazon, they might still run it if it's not free on Amazon. Other times they won't, and that's the tricky part. But there's a great list on the Wide for the Win group on newsletters. Wide for the Win Facebook group, I should say. There's a really phenomenal list of some really great newsletters, Val, if you're looking for different newsletters that may be inclusive of more than Amazon.
Okay. Your audio kind of garbled there a little. I don't know if it did that for everyone, but just in case, he was talking about the Wide for the Win Facebook group, which is has been that's an amazing group to watch grow. They have a lot of great tips. So, Nick, did you have any tips at all on promoting? You're all Amazon at this point, I think, right?
Yeah, so that's the problem. Is I'm pretty much exclusive to Amazon with most of my thrillers, and so I don't know a whole lot about websites that that preclude Amazon or exclude them. So unfortunately, I'm not the right guy to ask for that. But I do pretty much when I set up a promo for anyone who is Amazon, or if you're not and you want to go check and see what's available. I use my buddy Nicholas Eric's website. He's got a list of promotional sites where he kind of ranks them in tiers of best, second best, third best, kind of stay away from. Of course, BookBub being at the top is a great promotion site. And then so that's kind of how he ranks everything. And as far as how to make the most return on your investment. So I'm pretty lazy. I use his stuff because it works. So I'd recommend going to check that out for promotional sites. It pretty much covers the big ones. And rest assured, if there's something that's not on there, it's probably because it's not a huge promotional site, and so you're not really missing anything by just going down his list.
Okay. All right. So scrolling on down the list of questions here.
Alyssa asked if I could say that website again real quick. Yeah, it's nicholaseric.com, and that's Eric ERIK, I believe. It's very Googleable, but I believe
sure
that's what
Alyssa will add the URL to comments.
Yeah, she'll drop that in the comments, I'm sure. We just obligated her to. Speaking of Alyssa, she had a comment she said, I love using the cloud so I can swap between machines seamlessly, be that Google Docs or Dropbox or Evernote. I've tried them all. And I have too. In fact, for a while there, I really loved Evernote, and then Nick talked me out of it. And let's not trash Evernote. live on the air or
let's.
anything.
I doubt they're here. No, I'm just kidding. Here's the deal. I loved Evernote as well, but the user interface, the user experience was not quite Apple-y enough. If that's probably the best way to put it. And I'm a huge Apple fanboy, and so I just wanted it all kind of look the same. Long story short, though, Apple Notes does literally everything that I needed it to do, and I can't even remember now what features Evernote has that Apple Notes doesn't. So I switched everything over to Apple Notes. I mean, I can drag a PDF in there if I'm going on a trip. I can drag images, whatever, so I can organize, and everything's hierarchical in folders, so I can organize book ideas, shared docs, that kind of stuff. And with Kevin, I've not done this before. I just share the note, and he can see it on his side, and we can both edit it simultaneously.
Right.
So I like Apple Notes. And as far
I really
as
suspect. Go ahead, Nick. I'm sorry.
Oh, sorry, I'm on a delay out here in Hawaii internet. I was just going to say, that brings up a good point, because I do. I use Dropbox for everything, and the way it works is I actually replaced my hard drive with, well, not replaced, but my hard drive is actually just a Dropbox folder. So basically, my documents folder on my Mac is on the cloud. So anytime, and I've done that with my downloads folder, my desktop. So literally anytime I go to, like, I'm on a Mac Mini right now, but I've got my laptop downstairs. If I saved something here, I can open up my other computer, my other machine, and it's, as long as I have an internet connection, it's there. And that's also true, a little few more, finagling with the iPad and iPhone and things like that. So it's very doable. And that's not, Dropbox obviously isn't an Apple product. So you could do that on Windows, Linux, whatever.
Yeah. So I like a lot of authors, I prefer to write using Scrivener, and I've started when we knew we were going to be getting back on the road in the van again for a while. So we're on the road until our house is built. So that it'll be a few months. But when we knew, excuse me, when we knew we were getting back on, I started to make sure that I was up to date. I had used Scrivener on the iPad before and on the iPhone, mostly to edit, but I hadn't really focused on doing the actual writing full time on those apps. And it turns out that they are, once you kind of get used to the slight differences in the interface, they're really very powerful. So I do all my writing on my iPad now. I actually decided to switch over and just do the writing on the iPad, because for one, it helps me separate the work. So I still have my laptop. I carry it with us. It's easier for me to get online with the iPad because it has its own LTE interface or connection. But I discovered that even when I'm stationary, if I want to do various tasks, it actually helps my brain to switch gears, to switch over to the mobile platform and write there, rather than writing on my computer that I use for video or podcasting or whatever. So that's sort of related to the topic. So I did share on screen. Alyssa shared the link to nicholaseric.com. So if you're watching this, you'll be able to see that link. It's also in the comments in both YouTube and Facebook. So Tom Ray says, I use Office 365 on my laptop and desktop and got Word for Android to both my phone and tablet. It has a save option going directly to OneDrive that lets me move between devices seamlessly, which is essentially what Nick and I are talking about with things like Dropbox and Google Docs. I like Google Docs a lot. There's a part of me that really would like to write. I've written books in Google Docs and collaborated with other writers there. But for some reason, it's not my go-to.
Yeah, I mean, Alyssa commented up there earlier, and this is my problem with both Word and Google Docs, is it does get laggy after the book gets to a certain length, in which, at that point, it's almost impossible for me to use because it's just too frustrating. That may not be true for everyone, and certainly less true with Word on a dedicated machine rather than writing on the cloud like Google Docs. But I have other problems with Microsoft Word. I don't like the way that they're doing their subscription service. I've got basically 2 Word accounts, and I have to be logged into one of them, and only that one, the correct one, for me to be able to save documents and things. And it's just, I mean, maybe I'm old school, but I remember when I would go to Best Buy and buy a box called Microsoft Word, Microsoft Office, and take it home and open the cardboard, and that was the way it should. So I got a
You'd
little
open
frustrated
it
when they
up,
switched to
and
a different
while
model.
you were swapping out discs to install it, you were yelling for kids to get off your lawn, that sort of thing.
I was the kid on the lawn, but yeah, exactly.
Mark, what's your preferred like software for writing? Do you use Scrivener?
No, I bought Scrivener a while back, and I never got used to it. I just went back to Word, and maybe this is because with some of the projects I was working with, my editor used Word, and so I needed to get it into Word format, and I never had any luck in the conversion, and
Yeah,
I removed the frustration. So I was like, yeah, I'll just keep using Word. So
yeah,
I've stuck with it.
that's cool. Yeah, I guess the takeaway on that is there are a million different ways for you to do the actual writing. You have to find the one that works best for you. I fell in love with Scrivener almost from the start. To me, it changed. So I have a copywriting background. I have been a copywriter for most of my career, which just means I write emails and add copy and things like that all the time. And I always used Microsoft Word. It was just that was the tool. That's the tool you use. And so I wrote my first few books in Microsoft Word because it is a pretty powerful word processor. But I had a hard time. Like I was saying earlier, I needed to be able to switch gears. And Scrivener, I really liked the way I could separate out each chapter and each scene in its own individual file, and the whole focus mode and all that stuff. It has a lot of great features. But I can totally understand why people. To me, I use maybe less than 1% of the features this thing has. Honestly, so I can totally see why some authors might be intimidated by it and not like it. I remember a conversation I had with Justin Sloan. Like he tried to switch over and just hated it. Just hated everything about it. So he switched right back to Microsoft
I know
Word.
Justin as well, and I wonder if some of that is a Justin thing and maybe not a.
So no, I think
As much as I love the guy, I
well,
feel like Apple does hate him, and he has a problem with any Apple product that he
he does.
gets.
He does. Anytime he touches an Apple product, it does immediately self-destruct. So
I
okay,
have to go back because
so
Nick was talking about being an old man, talking about buying software in a box. My
right.
very first word processor, for anyone who's of my older age, more advanced age, there was a piece of software called Paperback Writer that I had on my
I
Commodore
remember Paperback Writer.
64. And
Yep.
I love that software so much. It wasn't until Corel WordPerfect actually came out. And WordPerfect
Yeah.
was 1,000 times better than Word back in the day. It was kind of
Yeah.
like comparing, DOS to a Mac.
Yes.
that kind of comparison. And then Word actually got better. But yeah, Paperback Writer. Oh my god, I love that. That was the
I
first
had
really great word processor I had.
Yeah, I had like a bootleg copy of that. Shh, don't let anyone know. But on my Commodore 128, and but when I got into college, I had an English professor who insisted that everyone buy a copy of Norton Textra from the college bookstore, and so that's what we were required to use in his class. And I actually fell in love with that. I kind of miss it sometimes. Like it was a very lightweight word processor. The whole thing fit on a floppy disk, and that's what we used to use to get things from one computer to another, folks. And I had a little Tandy clamshell laptop that I bought at the flea market for cheap because it didn't work, and I managed to fix it, and that's what I did all my early writing on. So I kind of I missed that. That was the early version of writing on an iPad for me. So
I have stories on cassette
you
before
do,
floppy disks. Yes.
yeah.
Wow.
I still have them. So pathetic.
That's funny. Yeah.
You
Sorry,
know, I
yes.
was going to ask you guys, we're talking about kind of going old school a little bit, and there's this tool that I've seen. I was going to ask if either of you have used it because it looks old school. It's really not, but it's called the Neo, right?
Yes.
And I think Kevin and I, we talked about it before, and
Neosmart.
we were trying to get one, the Neosmart, yeah. And it's this little keyboard. It's a great idea because if you're trying to out and about and everything, you want to stop at a coffee shop and get some writing done. If that's sort of your MO, this is a perfect tool for that because it's very distraction free. Obviously, no internet. The screen is, I think, it's 2 lines of text, and that's it. And so you can just basically write. You're not going to want to edit on this thing. You're not going to want to go back and reference. It's just a keyboard with a tiny little LCD screen. And I think it is LCD, right? Or no, it's LED. I think it's an LED screen.
Yes, I think it's LCD. It's liquid crystal.
LCD, liquid crystal.
Yeah,
okay.
the old school gray screen.
Yep. Mm-hmm.
Yeah,
Yeah, that's monochrome.
Yeah. So you know what scares me about that thing, honestly, Nick, and the only reason I've never, because one of our founders, Aaron Pogue, he uses one. And the thing that has always bugged me about that is that it basically buffers and stores everything on the keyboard itself. And the way you get it onto a computer is to plug it in and let it basically type the whole thing.
That's right. There's no actual digital component to it. It's just like real-time writing the thing into another Word document. Yeah, I do remember that.
Scares the hell out of me. I have nightmares about.
It takes 42 hours to actually transpose. Exactly. It's a really slow typer.
I don't know what the buffer size is. I assume you could do an entire book on there, but I just have nightmares of like the batteries running down while it's in the middle of typing it out, and that
seems like purposeful obfuscation, doesn't it? Like, I mean, why would you? I mean, it's so simple to just get a little mini or micro SD card, or even a full size SD card at that point.
But they don't make that thing anymore. It's discontinued.
Right.
It's decades old. I mean, it was like there are other things now that are similar to it.
Okay, I thought it was a little newer than that. I thought it was like while we had SD cards, they were deciding to go, really old school with it. But
I don't think so. But I'm not the expert on that thing. When I found out how it functioned, I didn't pursue trying to get one. It does intrigue me though. The idea of a dedicated writer, like that's all it does, and a lot of people need that, and which kind of brings us to another concept we might want to talk about a little, which is focus when you're traveling, because I for one, like, I'm in a van right this second. Like, I'm sitting in the passenger seat. It's turned around face. We have a travel van. There are distractions galore. My wife is like 3 feet away from me, for one thing, and we have a tiny dog that insists on being the center of the universe. And at any given moment, there are people with leaf blowers or people pulling up in a new RV and music and, all kinds of things happening. So staying focused on the writing, it's kind of a practice skill, I think. But, writing on an airplane or writing in a hotel room, writing in cafes, these are things, these are habits and capabilities I think you have to practice and learn how to do.
Absolutely.
What do you guys do? What have you done to make that sort of more accessible? What are some tricks?
At this point, I've just given up. I mean, I can't even. I say that, kind of tongue in cheek, because we've been, I'm not going to give the whole story here, but, Kevin and Mark know some of this, but I've been moving around a lot, and not all of it on purpose. And so it's just been very challenging for me to find this. I'm at the point where I'm about to launch a YouTube series about how to find rhythm and focus for writers, because that's exactly my life right now is,
when you're so busy you can't get anything done, the thing you should do is start a YouTube series.
Hey, it's easier than writing. If you're a writer and you do this full time, you probably know how attractive anything else besides writing the words is. I can't tell you how many times I've cleaned baseboards and mowed lawns just because I don't have to write. But yeah, truthfully, that's a very challenging thing. And you're exactly right, Kevin. It's a muscle, and we have to work it out. I definitely fell into the naive trap early on of thinking that writing was going to be, solely driven, fueled by coffee and inspiration. That my motivation would show up in the morning when I show up, and that's just patently untrue. I think we kind of know that, but I don't know if we really know that as writers, right? I think we just we've heard that, we've read that, that makes sense. We don't really stop and think, okay, if I want this to work, what's going to carry me through the hours and days and weeks after the motivation is drained? And how do I stay focused on that project? And I'm not going to say that I have the answer, but it's a tool belt. It's a bunch of tools in your tool belt. And things like, for me, getting good sleep. And for me, that's 8 hours a night. Some people can exist on a little less, some people need a little more, but I have to have 8 hours pretty much on the dot. I'm not going to be as focused. I can still get writing done, and I still force myself to work, but what's that? In a single day?
8 hours in a row, like in a single day?
Yeah, I think I predict I have to have 16 hours of sleep to feel rested. Because I've never in my adult life felt rested. So that's my theory, is that 16 hours must be the number. I've only gotten 15 before. So yeah. So anyway, that's rambling, but I think that's the challenge, right? Is trying to figure out what tools we have. knowing ourselves well enough to say, it doesn't matter what these guys need to do. It doesn't matter what Kevin Tumlinson wakes up at 2:30 in the morning and then goes to bed at, like midnight. And then every hour in between is writing time. Like I can't do that, but what can I do? Obviously I have books to write. Obviously I got to feed the beast. Obviously I got readers and stuff to please. And of course, food to put on the table. So at some point it becomes so much less about the inspiration and the motivation and a lot more about just the job. You got to get the job done.
Yeah. What is that quote? And I don't know who said it, and I don't know the exact verbiage, but it goes something along the lines of, inspiration is very important in writing, and luckily I'm inspired every day at 9 a.m.
Yes. Yeah. I think that was me. I think I said that. I'm usually the person.
Is that you?
Behind all
Mark,
the quotes.
how do you keep yourself inspired and motivated?
I was listening to the Sell More Books show with Brian Cohen and H. Claire Taylor, and Claire said something in this week's episode that resonated. And it's, when you return to writing, if it's a scene you're not enjoying writing, how is the reader going to enjoy reading that? And that's something that resonates with me. So, for example, if I'm working on a book project and I'm on the road, because I do travel a lot, I'll be back to traveling a lot very soon. If I can't focus on that scene because I'm so excited and I'm so passionate to want to get back into that book project, and again, it's a lot of work. It's not easy to block out the distractions and the things, but if I don't make time for it and I'm not able to block those distractions are more powerful and more important than my work. And I can't let that happen. My work has to be more important. Or maybe there's something wrong with what I'm supposed to be writing that day. Is that really something for me? Because again, think about that from your reader's perspective. They have all these distractions around them. They want to get back to your book and they want to read your book because it's that awesome. I should feel the same way in many ways about getting back to working on that book, fighting those same distractions. It's not all that different. Yeah. So I try to apply a little bit of that thinking, and sometimes that helps me decide a project isn't working, or I need to take a different path, or a scene isn't working, or something's wrong. It's almost like writer's block in many ways. It's powerful. We want to do other things, as Nick said. Hey, but man, I can never get more chores done around the house than when I have a deadline coming up on my writing. But it's almost one of those things that you kind of look at and say, what do I really want here? What's my brain telling me? And so for me, even though I'm easily distracted, I do have trouble writing in a crowded cafe. But when I am writing in a crowded cafe and there's a lot going on around me, that tells me something really important about what I'm working on, that I can actually focus in on it.
So I do very well in the crowded cafe situation. So well, in fact, that when we were kind of locked down and isolated and not going anywhere, I actually would go on YouTube and find ambient soundtracks from cafes so that I had that crowd noise going. And I would, if I wasn't having to stay quiet, like, in this environment, or when we stayed with my in-laws or something, and I had an open room, like I would actually play that sound on a speaker in the room and then play my music or something from whatever I was writing on. And that gave me the whole cafe experience. So I thrive in that environment.
I do too. I like that. I like a little bit of background noise and, headphones on, all that, but I want to hear some clattering and
I've actually been in cafes that were too quiet and played cafe ambient noise in my AirPods.
Can I put this over your PA system, please?
Exactly. It's like, hey, you guys want to attract more writers? Play this. So Tom Ray had a comment I wanted to make sure I read. It says, I wrote the original manuscript for my 12-book series on a Chromebook in the student lounge while my son, while he had classes at technical college. Focus was a good set of earbuds and great playlists. So playlists are very important to authors.
I was going to say that brings up a good point, Kevin, because I am a music guy and I cannot write with music that's got lyrics in it.
Same.
It has to be instrumental.
Okay, caveat.
I'm with you, Nick.
Caveat
100%.
to that. I can do it, but only in that noisy cafe setting. So if or hotel or whatever. So if I'm in an open environment where there are other people and there's conversations and that sort of thing, I don't know if maybe the lyrics start to get lost in all that. I can do it, but I cannot listen to. I used to be able to listen to pop music or something while I wrote.
Wham.
But just
Yeah.
yeah, wham. Yeah,
My
exactly.
reading gets rickrolled all the time with.
Let's see. Oh, Andy Jones was kind enough to give us the quote. I write when I'm
Quote, Peter
inspired,
DeVry,
and
yeah.
I see to it that I'm inspired at 9 o'clock every morning. Thank you, Andy. That I appreciate that. And it's Peter DeVry. Is that how you pronounce the name?
Peter DeVry, I think. Yeah.
Okay.
It looks French.
Great
yeah,
quote.
probably.
Thank you. DeVry.
Je pense que oui.
So here is Alyssa shared this in the comments. Please go click this link. I think this is going to be amazing. Get ready to have your mind blown. You can generate and customize your own cafe sounds. Now, I did find an app that would let you layer different ambient sounds, and this is probably it, actually. So go check that out if you are looking for that sort of thing. It's very helpful, especially in environments like this. Like, if having that sort of thing going on helps sort of stabilize me as far as focus. So it's a great tool.
Can I talk about another important cafe tip or trick? So here in Canada, at Tim Hortons, there's a 20-minute time limit. And so there's no better way to do a sprint where you're going to get writing done than getting into Tim Hortons, get your coffee, get a table, and then write for 20 minutes. And then, I'm not going to leave my laptop at the table and go up because, you might get lifted or whatever. But so you close your laptop, you finish that sprint, you go up, you get your next coffee, and then. But again, it's this weird, the psychology. And this happens too. Sometimes I've even booked hotel rooms just to get writing done because it feels like I'm here with a purpose and I've moved to this location and I only have this much time. I better be productive. And that's a psychological.
I've literally considered booking a flight to a city and then flying right back. I've literally considered doing that because there's some cheap flights every now and then. I'm like,
I've done it. Yeah, you can get. I don't like flying much these days, but I've done it in the past, and we'll go to a city or something, and I'll wander the city for a while and find a place to just sit and write, and that you can do things like that. It's not all that expensive now.
Well, Nick, now they've got the cross U.S. Train for really, really cheap. You could just do the authors on a train thing, right?
I would love to do that.
I would do that.
Yeah,
I would love to do that.
There's a lot more space for us tall people.
Yeah.
Right. Yeah.
Hey, look, if I can live and write out of a van, I can do it in a train car. So no problem.
It sounds like green eggs and ham or something.
Green eggs and ham.
I cannot write.
If I can write inside a van, well, I can write anywhere.
Exactly. Gil Jackson says 10 minutes of listening to music while writing, and I don't hear it anymore. Which I do think it's kind of, you put on mental blinders, I think.
Hey, shameless sales pitch. If anyone out there needs a good playlist, check out Sonata and Scribe. I literally wrote music. I made up a fake band called Autographa, and there's an album called Tensions that I literally wrote to be background music for writing. And it's on Spotify, all that stuff, Apple Music, whatever. So go check that out. It's kind of funny.
Yeah,
I mean, I think it's good.
Sonata, let me put that in the comments. It's Sonata and Scribe.com. Oh, come on, autocorrect.
The website doesn't work. Remember, the website's down.
I'm just
go search it in your
play it for me right now.
Yeah, go search it in your favorite music location, whatever you subscribe to.
I was going to help you out.
Well, I need to help myself out and put the website up, but I've been too focused on writing and procrastinating.
Yes, exactly. A chronic problem for writers. So, well, we're kind of coming up on the end of our time. If anyone has a last minute question, feel free to pop it in. We got like 2 minutes left, but we can kind of start wrapping some things up. So, of course, if you're watching this, you're aware of who we are as Drafted Digital, but we want to make sure that you know that you can come visit us anytime online at drafteddigital.com, and we'll help you out with getting your manuscript converted to all the popular ebook formats. We also now have D2D print, which is still technically in beta, but I think we're getting really close to. We've ironed out some pretty major wrinkles in that, and it is looking pretty sweet. So I'm looking forward to seeing that guy launch full out. If you get on and you sign up for the beta, we'll get you into the beta. It's the full functioning stuff. I use it for all my print books. Mark uses it as well. I don't think Nick uses it, but I won't call him out on it publicly. But some other features you might be interested in, we have our collaboration tools now where you can actually do royalty splitting. So this is great for box sets, anthologies, if you've got a writing partner. Even if you just want to split some of your royalties with, say, your cover designer or anyone, really. As long as you both have D2D accounts and have gone through the tax interview, you can split your royalties in any percentages you want. So very cool. I've already seen a lot of people using this for box sets in particular, and anthologies, where and some you can vary the percentages as well. So the organizer can actually set their percentage a little higher if they're the one going out of pocket for everything, for example, or you can all just split it even. So that's a great tool. Of course, we want to remind you that we just released or just added BorrowBox as one of our library distribution options. That's just one of several ways that we get you to libraries on D2D, draftedigital.com. So go check out that website and make sure you are subscribing to us on YouTube and Facebook. You can find us if you just type /draftedigital on any random website, you might find us. So go to youtube.com/draftedigital or facebook.com/draftedigital, and make sure you're following us. If you're on YouTube, you want to like this video, subscribe to our channel, and comment, because that helps us out, and it could help you out too, because it'll let you know when we do these little live broadcasts. So make sure that you are bookmarking d2dlive.com, where you can see a countdown to these broadcasts as we roll them out. We do at least one of these a month live. Usually more than that. So very useful. And if you go to selfpublishinginsiders.com, that is the official podcast for this site. And you'll be able to listen, watch, or read this show when it posts live, and all the others that we have up there. So go and check that out. That's a whole lot of URLs, but they're all worth it, I promise. So go check those out. Before we cancel up, let's see. Here's a question from Sharish. Any plans for D2D print to support color printing? There's been some talk about that. Mark, do you know anything about that? We've talked a little bit.
We're not adding any features until we're post beta. So email support at Draft Digital. Let us know you're interested in that, and we've got to get the beta out the door before we look at all the other cool, sexy things we can add to it, like color and other formats.
Okay. All right. That looks like the only question left, and we're out of time. So that's perfect. So thank you so much for being a part of the show. Guys, thank you, and happy writing on the road as everything's starting to open back up. Safe travels.
Procrastinating on the road.
Procrastinate on the road. There are a lot of clean hotel rooms out there as Nick Packer passes through town.
Those baseboards are sparkly.
All right, everybody. Thank you again, and we'll see you all next time. Take care.
Bye.